What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode review for Rurouni Kenshin. This is episode 44, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade. And just before we start, too, I want to point out, so I have been watching the original series, and it's just really funny to me, like, because I actually have gotten past this part of the story in the 96 version. So it's really funny to me, like, some of the things that were, like, kind of changed in the remake compared to, like, how it plays out in the original version. And to be honest, I might have to say that the remake does things a little bit better than how it was handled in the original 96 version. Especially because, like, there's a lot of things that, like, you know, get really hyped up, like there was something that was going to happen with it, and it just nothing's really done about it. Whereas here they actually, like, try to do a little bit more with, like the fire, for instance, and the ship. Because the ship doesn't actually play, like, a major role in the 96 version. But in this one, there's a little bit more going on with it. Same thing with the Kyoto fire.
Yeah, it's like like in the original version, it's like there was, I mean, they hype it up, but then there was, like, there was no fire that happens in the original version. Where in this one, like, the fire does happen, but the people in in Kyoto managed to put, I guess in a way put it out.
The Oniwaban and the Oniwaban and also, like, other people try to prevent it. The other thing too is, like we mentioned in the previous episode, Aoshi wasn't supposed to show up on the ship. In the 96 version, Aoshi wasn't on the ship. Aoshi was waiting for Kenshin, I guess, to. I honestly, I thought this was really dumb. Especially considering how Aoshi, like, was just driven by revenge, or just wanting to hunt Kenshin down. It made more sense in the remake that he would show up at this point and try to fight Kenshin. In the original version, this happens later. This is after, slight spoilers, they go back to the base of the Ten Swords to fight some of the Ten Swords members, and end up coming across Aoshi, like, waiting for Kenshin in a library. And the funny thing about this is that he doesn't, like, confront Kenshin. They just realize that he's waiting in there, like, he's behind a closed door in a library, like, just waiting, and they realize that he's there. But he doesn't, like, do anything to stop Kenshin and be like, hey, I'm here, I want to fight you, or anything like that. I guess he was just hoping that Kenshin would just find him. It just didn't make sense. I was like, why would he do that? Like, why would he not, like, be proactive in trying to pursue Kenshin instead of just, like, hoping that Kenshin would show up, like, waiting for him there?
Yeah, it's a little weird. Like, we see, like, it's not only like this. I forgot to point this out, but, like, it's not only these versions, but there was also, like, the movie. The live action movie version also has a different interpretation of the whole Kyoto Inferno.
Well, also the ship plays a bigger role in even the live action version, because I think the final confrontation with Shishio actually is on the ship.
It takes place on the ship
in that version. So it was even more surprising to me, especially in the 96 version, because I'll just kind of spoil what happens in the 96 version with the ship. The ship just gets blown up by one of the bombs that Sano throws at the ship, and it ends up blowing a hole in the ship, and it takes on water and sinks. Now, the same thing happens in the remake, but it happens very differently, because the bombs aren't enough to really, like, blow it up or to make it sink. Instead, as we saw in, like, the previous episode, how Sano was making his way to the engine room, he ends up making his way to the engine room and just, like, punching a hole in the ship and making it sink.
Yeah. Well, like, Hoji, he diffuses the bomb by just, like, by deliberately cutting himself and using his blood to, I guess, defuse the bomb, which it's just.
I had no idea what he was doing when he did that at first. I was like, why would you do it that way?
Well, the remake version, it just takes it to another level of, I don't know. It's just, like, just suspend your disbelief for a minute, just to see how ridiculous, how that whole scene plays out. Because like it's not possible for someone to just punch a damn hole in a fucking ship like that to make it sink like that.
The other kind of I guess I'd say a little bit of a nitpick I have is that we keep getting teased with there being somewhat of a fight with Kenshin versus Aoshi, but every time it happens, it just constantly is like cutting away, or there's someone interrupting the fight before it even happens.
Yeah,
and it just really annoys me how it didn't really, there really wasn't a fight. Like they clashed a few times, and then like it only lasts a few seconds.
Like it cuts back to that same scene in which the last episode cuts out, in which Kenshin was about to use his new technique against Aoshi, but it gets to that point in which like the ship starts exploding, and it stops their duel like right then and there, and this of course this prompts Shishio to contemplate everything that's happened, saying that he underestimated Kenshin and Sanosuke's like ingenuity, or their knowledge of how to find him, like and of course like underestimating Sanosuke on taking out the ship the way that he did. So
I think it was also that he didn't anticipate Sanosuke would show up, or he didn't know about him.
Yeah, and so he proposes that that everyone like I guess take their leave for now until they can meet up to have the proper duel at a later date, which eventually Shishio and the rest of his gang end up doing. So
yeah, and I just want to point out, like, I'm pretty sure I know where this season is going to end now. That being said, it's again, not too much of a spoiler. It's probably going to end like right before they go off to duel Shishio and his the other 10 swords.
Yeah, I think we only have like 3 more episodes left. So
that's the other thing I'm a little bit confused about. I'm wondering if there's going to be a lot of like expanding on certain material or certain things, and maybe that's going to stretch out the remainder of the runtime, because after this, like they're in the original series, like like pretty much in the next episode is when the rest of that episode is when they go back to the Oya, and then after that they head off to go and duel the 10 swords. So yeah, I'm really wondering like what those episodes are going to be.
Yeah.
But as we know, like they've already like included some original material that wasn't in the original series. I think that one guy, the captain of the police force or what, like he was in the original series, but he did not play like as big of a role, because we cut back to him and like I guess the aftermath of him having like tried to fight off some of the 10 swords members. And then as well, we focus on these 2, I guess, foot soldiers of two of Shishio's men, and they go to get like they go to Megumi actually to try and get like some medical attention.
Yeah.
And I like that they're actually having Megumi kind of play a role in this, because I don't know if this is how it happens in the manga, but in the 96 version, like I don't think Megumi is actually. She's not even there. Like I think she's actually back in Tokyo, so she's never even in Kyoto. So I thought it was interesting they actually had her do something in this.
Yeah.
Like she has like a tent set up and she's healing people.
Yeah, it's just a lot of this season. Just a lot of this remake. I guess reimagined version of this series now. It's just like they're both adding stuff and changing certain things as well.
Okay. So, speaking of which, too, so we also saw like in the last episode that the blind guy,
what was it? Usui?
Usui, yeah. Like he was about to stab Misao, but in the original they didn't cut away from that scene. But like right before this happens, the monk. Anji, he breaks. Well, in the original series, he like breaks his spear, or
he breaks his spear.
Yeah, he breaks it. But I think in this one, doesn't he like restrain him, or like I think he just
stopped.
holds him back.
Yeah, he just restrains him from stabbing Misao, not telling
Yeah.
him that 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 they deviated. They started deviating from their original goal, and telling them that there's no
Well,
point in this.
yeah, in the original series, there's not much of an exchange between the two of them. Here, there's like a longer, like that. Anji actually like explains like why he stopped him.
Yeah, and of course, Misao and the others are grateful that Anji stepped in to stop Luffy.
Oh, Kaoru bows to him too while he has his back turned. I thought that was cool. They that's something they added in too. As well as this is the big thing I wanted to talk about is that well, I'm gonna try not. I'm trying not to spoil it, but there is something related to Anji's backstory because he sees like this is right after the fires start. He sees the fire in the distance and he like looks at it, while like kind of clutching or just sort of giving this sort of expression, that is pretty telling if you have seen the original series and you know about Anji's backstory. So I thought that was interesting that they like an interesting detail they added in to sort of hint at what his backstory was.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's been a while since I seen the original series. I mean, obviously I still need time to go back to it whenever I can. But yeah, it's just a lot of a lot of the new added stuff was I guess one of the more interesting stuff is that instead of like focusing on Kenshin and the main cast, they're just focusing.
The other thing too is that Sanosuke gets told by Seita that Anji is part of the Ten Swords, whereas he doesn't find this out yet in the original series. He actually finds it out later. So I thought it was interesting they just had Seita tell him. It doesn't really change much, but I thought it was interesting they changed that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's now we're heading. I don't know. Like I don't know where they're going with this, but unless they really are following the original source material, but only like altering certain details of certain things. I think that's where they're going with this. Is
probably
that we will get the eventual resolution to the story playing out the same way, but with certain details like slightly changed up in here and there. I mean, it's so hard.
They also had that kid confront those two foot soldiers back at Megumi's tent about I guess the fact that I think it was about the old man or something. Like, he was still upset at them.
I mean, it was a decent touch. I mean, I'm not certain if it was really necessary, but it's I guess it's in a somewhat interesting addition to include I guess regular people being involved in these conflicts.
Yeah, I did like a lot of the additions in the remake version that with the Kyoto fire. I think it was a lot better than in the 96 one where really not much happened here. But in this version, a lot more seemed to have happened. But it does also make me wonder what they're going to do because like you said, what was it? We have 2 or 3 episodes left. I'm wondering what those are going to be. Because they're as I pointed out, right after this is when they're going to go and confront the 10 swords back at their hideout.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious with the amount of material that they have left and whether or not they're going to really resolve this conflict by the end of the season. Unless that they're going to save it up for maybe season 3, but I'm not
sure.
Yeah,
there's no way that they would have to. There would have to be at least for the first core, I guess, of season 3. If it's going to be a full season.
Yeah, and then of course there's one more story arc that happens, after the whole.
Yeah, the Jinshu arc.
Yeah, the Jinshu arc. But yeah, overall, I thought it was an all right episode. A lot of unexpected turns and with certain additions and slight changes to certain events. Especially some of the ridiculous moments in which, particularly the Sanosuke thing, which he punches a hole through the ship, causing it to sink, in the first place. It was an all right episode, but I think it's my only disappointment was the whole Aoshi and Kenshin confrontation. I mean, it's like I said in the last episode, wasn't really much of a fight. It was just even in the last episode, Kenshin was kind of on the defensive for most of that fight, and it wasn't until like he tried to use his new technique, but it was literally stopped at the last second thanks to Sanosuke's involvement in taking down the ship.
Yeah, I feel like it's mostly just a tease for maybe the fight later on with Kenshin and Naoshi. Is that's when we're actually going to get the fight. Probably, which is probably just going to be season 3 at this point. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about the episode. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Like I said, it was an okay episode. Hopefully we'll see where this goes for the remainder of the season, because I just don't think, I don't know, I'm a little bit skeptical that they'll conclude this whole entire story arc by the end of the season, unless they're going to save it for season 3. But we'll see where it goes. I mean, it's possible they might add some new stuff that wasn't in the original series. I guess, I don't know, in a way to drag it out until the end of the season. Maybe, I don't know where they're going with this, to be honest.
Yeah, guys. But that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.